Hello everyone, how is it going? Now we must remember that life is full of inconveniences. Life is full of challenges. It's full of problems. It's full of hassle. It's full of adversities. It's full of hardships. So as we are on the OCD recovery journey, as we go along, we have to try and remember that we are trying to develop a robust approach to deal with the problems that we face in life. Now, OCD is just one of those problems that we are facing. The fact you have a serious and very challenging mental health disorder, and you are trying to overcome that problem. You are trying to recover from OCD because it holds you back in many areas of your life. It blocks you, it debilitates you, it can dysfunction you because OCD is incredibly difficult. It's very, very challenging. So we want to be focusing on the behaviors and the beliefs and all the life structure and everything in between in order to overcome OCD. But you must remember that you are going to face many life problems. You're going to face challenges left, right, and center. Please remember that you are not trying to get rid of OCD and then you return to life. Then you resume your normal life. That's not the case at all. We have to live life whilst recovering from OCD. We have to get engaged in life and get involved in life and all the hassles of life and all the life challenges whilst dealing with OCD, whilst attempting to recover from OCD, whilst committing to the recovery work which may lead to recovery from OCD. Because you cannot put life on hold. You cannot wait until you recover and then resume to normal reality. It doesn't work like that. OCD is part of your life. You're going to have to focus on getting better from OCD whilst dealing with your career, whilst focusing on your relationships and your friendships, whilst focusing on your physical health, whilst focusing on your financials, whilst focusing on your passions, your interests, your hobbies, and everything in between. Okay, so what we want to be doing is integrating OCD recovery with life. Okay, now as you go for OCD recovery, what you'll tend to find is that you develop a rational mindset. You develop the rational thinking, the rational tools, the unconditional acceptance approach, which helps in all aspects of our lives. What I found in my personal journey, the more rational I've become and the more I've broken down the fears associated with OCD, the better I've got with dealing with just life hassles, with dealing with problems that we embrace and that we face on a day-to-day life. Okay, so when we do this, please don't think that we just put OCD to one side and then get on with life. They have to integrate, they have to intertwine, okay? And that's important to remember. So to kick this video off, we have to look at how we are viewing problems in life, okay? Because when you have a conditional life acceptance view on things, meaning you state things such as life shouldn't be this difficult, life shouldn't be this hard, I shouldn't have to face challenges like this, it shouldn't be this difficult to get better from OCD, things should go my way, I must get what I want, and if I don't get what I want, then I can't stand it, then I can't handle it, then I can't cope, and life is ruined if it doesn't go my way. So we've got to be very careful of how we're viewing things going wrong in our life. We got to be thinking, right, my perception of life adversities is the problem. It's not things going wrong in my life that's the problem. It's how I view things going wrong in my life, which is the problem. It's my outlook. It's my perception. It's my view on things. And that's what we can change. Okay, and one thing that really helped me was separating problems that I face into two categories. A minor inconvenience and a major inconvenience, and not labeling things as a total horror, a terror, disastrous, catastrophic, the worst thing ever, horrible, awful, unbearable, unstandable, unlivable. We've got to be very careful of that kind of language because then we shut the door on overcoming. If you face something that's quite extreme and it affects your life significantly and it impacts your life in a big way, if you label that just a major inconvenience rather than a complete horror, then you are in a much better position to deal with the problem more effectively, more efficiently, and more productively. Okay? Because when you label it as a major inconvenience, it keeps the door open to overcoming it, right? Because then you say, right, this is an inconvenience. How do I overcome this problem? How do I work my way around this problem? How do I weave my way in and out of this problem? How can I use this problem to help benefit me in life? What lessons can I get? What key skills can I get from this problem that I face? Because life is full of inconveniences, right? So if you deal with it as, right, this is something I need to overcome. How do I do that? And that's how I go through life. I think, right, here's a problem. How do I deal with that? Right? If I started labeling things as a total disastrous horror, then I'm going to find it so hard because I'm going to be so deflated. I'm going to be so anxious. I'm going to be so panicked. I'm going to be so depressed. I'm going to be wallowing in chronic guilt and shame because I'm saying, oh, I've got this huge terror to face. How am I going to deal with this? This is just beyond bearable. I'm not going to be able to handle this at all. And then straight away, you're off on the wrong foot. You're not really going to deal with it appropriately and accordingly and most efficiently because you have created an emotional problem about the practical problem. Let's say you lose your job. Let's use a real life example. Let's say you lose your job. Now that is a practical problem because of the consequences of losing your job is obviously financial problems with, income. It's going to affect that. It's also going to affect career. Let's say you were building a career and you make a mistake or you did something wrong or you were being inefficient or whatever it was. It doesn't really matter why you lost your job, but you've lost your job. Okay. So you've got the practical problem. That practical problem being, I need now to get a new job. I need some income. I need to get another job somewhere. Okay. So that's a practical problem. Now that is an inconvenience because it inconveniences you with finances. It inconveniences you with a job and that social life as well of having a job because job can also provide social life as well. It can also inconvenience you with a career. If you're trying to build that career, if you're trying to set any career goals and you're trying to succeed and you're trying to improve and you're trying to maybe climb a career ladder, I don't know, right? So it inconveniences you in many ways, right? But if you view that as a sheer horror, you'll be thinking, oh God, I've now lost my job, and you'll be so panicked because you are now facing a horror rather than an inconvenience. When you just keep it an inconvenience, you are then annoyed and disappointed and frustrated and regrettable for losing that job. But you are in a much better position emotionally to then go and get another job, to go and get an even better job because you're thinking with clarity, you're thinking much more productively, you're thinking with efficiency, you're thinking more effectively because you're thinking, right, this is just a frustration. It's an annoyance that I've lost this job. And because I now want to get another job because of financial reasons and career reasons and life reasons, I'm now going to focus on getting the job and taking the steps in order to get that job. And I want a job in this area, I want a job in this industry, so therefore I'm going to go to interviews and get that job. And you're much more likely to be successful and achieve, and your performance in a job interview is much likely to be better if you're only disappointed at losing the last job. But if you are viewing it as a horror, you're then going to add to the practical problem because then you create an emotional problem. You then start saying, this is a complete disaster. I shouldn't have lost that job. How dare I lose that job? Maybe you feel like you've been hard done by. Maybe you felt like losing your job was unjust. Maybe you think it was unfair, right? Doesn't matter whether it was or not. I'm just focusing on what you could control. And this is your beliefs on the situation. Maybe you're rating yourself. Maybe you're saying you're worthless. Maybe you're saying you're inferior. Maybe you're saying you're undeserving now because you've messed up this job opportunity. Maybe you're saying you're no damn good and you deserve to be punished and you cannot be happy because of this job that you've lost. So what you've then done, you've created an emotional problem because you are going to feel very angry at losing that job. You're going to feel very guilty and ashamed at yourself for losing that job. You're going to feel very depressed because you are demanding that life shouldn't be this hard and you shouldn't lose your job and you shouldn't have to put in the effort to go and get another job. and life is so unfair. Why me, why me, why me? Complaining and whining, which is going to lead to depression. It's going to lead to feeling deflated. You're going to feel defeated. It's going to lead to general low mood, and it's going to lead to just lack of motivation and determination to go and get another job because you're demanding that the world shouldn't be this hard. Okay, so straight away you then have created an additional problem as well as the practical problem. If you are beating yourself up endlessly because you've lost a job, when you do eventually go to get a new job, you are going to have a gun to your head. You're going to have the internal pressure valve turn right up because you are saying that you must prove yourself and you must succeed and you must get this job in order to prove that you are worthy, perfect, succeeding, adequate, competent human being. That is going to affect your performance because you are going to be so anxious about doing well. You're not going to be thinking with clarity. You're not going to be thinking straight, and you're going to be very panicked, which is then going to affect your performance. It's going to affect your speech and how you think and how you present and how you come across and all the key ingredients in order about getting a job. It's going to impact that. It's going to alter your ability there. It's going to affect you in many ways. Okay, so you've got to be very careful when we add an additional layer to the already practical problem that we face. And remember that life is full of inconveniences. It's full of hassles. It's full of problems. Okay, you cannot escape life's problems. If anything, as you get better from OCD, you actually face more problems because you start living life a bit more. You're cutting out the avoidance. Maybe you're traveling a bit more. Maybe you're spending a bit more money. Maybe you're going for a career opportunity. Maybe you're dating. Maybe you're getting into a relationship. You're gonna approach problems. You're gonna arrive at all different problems in life. So it's how you're dealing with them. If you're going in with an irrational attitude and with irrational beliefs and irrational perspectives on the situation, you're going to find it very difficult to overcome because you're too busy getting caught up and consumed by all the negativity of the problem. Oh, this bloody problem, it shouldn't have to deal with this. I shouldn't have to deal with this relationship problem. My career should be straightforward. Why do I have to deal with this? I can't stand it. It's unbearable. It's just so hard. Life isn't worth living if it's this hard. They shouldn't treat me like that. They should treat me considerately. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have made that mistake. I'm such a stupid twat for making such a mistake. And that's going to lead to all kinds of emotional turmoil, emotional ruin. It's not going to be a good place to be. And even worse, what we then do, we then create an additional problem emotionally. So you've got the practical problem, losing your job. You then create an emotional problem of losing that job. Okay, because you've then deemed it as the worst thing ever. You've catastrophized it. You've said it shouldn't happen to you. You've said, I can't stand getting another job. You're saying it's so unfair. You're then rating yourself and you're rating life. So then you've created the emotional problem of the guilt, the anxiety, the depression, the panic, the low mood, the deflation, the demotivation, all the feelings that we feel along the way. So you've created that. And even more foolishly now, we've created a third one, because this is where the fear of fear component comes into it. Okay, what we then do, we then start getting anxious about being depressed about the practical problem. I'll explain. So let's say you are panicked. Let's say you lose your job and you are panicked at the thought of getting a new job, but you also have fears of rejection involved, and you are then now worrying that you are rejected for panicking about your new job, for panicking at the job interview, because you've added a layer of emotional distress about the practical problem. So you go into a job interview, you then panic. But now you are scared that you're going to panic in that interview. So now you're panicking about getting the job. Oh dear. You've now created a depression as well, because now you are depressed about being anxious about getting that job, right? Because the beliefs look like this. I shouldn't be anxious about this. I can't deal with the panic involved. I can't deal with the anxiety involved. I can't stand it. It shouldn't be this hard. I shouldn't be feeling this panicked. It shouldn't be this difficult. Therefore, I shouldn't be this depressed about getting a job. It should be easier. And I can't possibly stand feeling anxious about getting a job. So then you've created that third layer. So you've created an emotional problem, another emotional problem about the practical problem. Okay, something to be very wary of. So as we start breaking these down, we start realizing that, hang on a moment, when a practical problem happens, it is just an inconvenience. And that inconvenience causes frustration. It causes annoyance. It causes regret. It causes remorse. But ultimately, it keeps the reaction healthy so we can then strive to deal with the problem efficiently. We can then divert our energy and attention to deal with that problem in the most productive manner possible. Where we then go wrong is by catastrophizing the practical problem. I shouldn't have to face this. This is too hard. This is unbearable. You turn that inconvenience into a horror. You turn it into a catastrophe. You turn the inconvenience into a disaster. You turn the practical problem into something that's unbearable. Something that's all too much and too overwhelming, which then causes all the unhealthy chronic emotions, all the debilitating, the crippling, the dysfunctioning emotions that you feel, the depression, the anxiety, the panic, the shame, the guilt, and so on. Okay, and then you add the other layer on top. You then get depressed about being anxious. Then you get panicked about being depressed about getting a job. Because you are demanding that you mustn't feel this way whilst trying to get a job. You are demanding that it should be easy to get into a relationship and you shouldn't be anxious about getting into a relationship. So then you become anxious about being anxious about getting into the relationship. Okay, you get into that vicious circle. This is how Fear of Fear operates here, because then you start dreading the feelings involved with the practical problem. And you get into that vicious Fear of Fear cycle. Okay? Something to be very aware of. Albert Ellis explains this very well in the first book. He talks about this in great detail, about how we create our emotional problems. We create our emotional disturbance. Always remember, I'm going to leave the video on this, is that humans offend themselves. Humans disturb themselves. Humans depress themselves. Humans distress themselves. It's not the activating event which is the problem. It's not the practical problem, the loss of job, the rejection from somebody else, the being stuck with OCD forever, whatever the worst case scenario may be. That isn't the problem. It's how we perceive that problem. It's our belief system associated with that problem which fuels the emotional reaction, which fuels the emotional consequence, which fuels the chronic disturbance, the emotional turmoil that we often find ourselves in when our beliefs are faulty. Always remember that we get ourselves into trouble. Somebody treating you unfairly didn't cause your anger. It was how you view them treating you unfairly, which has fueled your anger. Yes, their action contributed to your anger, but your belief was the main contributing driving factor, which led to your enraged response, which led to your anger and lashing out at them. Your view on something going wrong in your life caused the anxiety. The thing going wrong in your life, the loss of a job, the loss of a friend, the rejection from somebody, that contributed to your emotional state. But the main driving factor fueling it all was your belief system, your irrational beliefs, your perspective on that thing. That is what causes the emotional reaction. And just be very wary of the additional layer that we add on top. That I can't stand feeling this way. I can't stand feeling anxious about that problem. I hate this. I need these feelings gone. I mustn't feel anxious. I mustn't feel depressed. And then you get depressed about being anxious about the problem and so on. Okay. Hope you find this video helpful. If you have, please leave a like. If you're interested in one-to-one sessions where we will break this down in detail, I've just used an example of an inconvenience that we face with losing a job. But in one-to-one calls, we'll break it down of your specific fears, with what OCD is latching to, what you're anxious about, what you're stuck with, and we will dissect it thoroughly and break it down and rip it apart so we can get under that, so we can change our unhealthy emotional reaction to a much more healthier emotional reaction, which leads to an increased productivity. It leads to more efficiency and more effectiveness when we deal with problems in life, because problems are everywhere in life. They're full of hassles, full of adversities, full of inconveniences, full of hardships. So we want to be developing a robust approach to dealing with these things rather than complaining and whining and then becoming emotionally disturbed by the practical problem, rather than remaining in a robust way and a solid and stable mental health. So we're much better at dealing with the problem because we're putting the key to our mental health in our hands and not the activating event's hand. We're not saying they treated me unfairly, therefore I'm depressed. We're understanding that you didn't like them treating you unfairly, and them treating you unfairly played a part in how you feel, but the main thing is how you view it. And that's when you realize you can change that, which puts the key to your mental health back in your hands, and you realize that you control your emotional destiny. You are in charge. You are in the driving seat of your emotional fate. That's important to remember. Please email phil@ocdrecovery.com and you can get in touch with one-to-one calls. My name's Sam. You have the founder of OCD Recovery, Rob, Nick, Momin, Gemma, and Elliot, all doing coaching calls. So please email phil@ocdrecovery.com to get in touch, and we can book you in as soon as we possibly can on our busy schedules to get you booked in for your one-to-one call, and we can start breaking down your fears in a very thorough manner. Anyway, guys, hope you found this video helpful. If you have, please leave a like, and I'll speak to you again. Bye-bye.